Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now, 865-243-TALK. That's 243-8255. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
We are back again this week, the Patrick Riggins Show. Now, if you didn't know this song would eventually make it into the rotation for show openers, then you haven't been listening to this show long enough. This is the radio show that is bad to the bone. When it comes to freedom and liberty, we are the lone wolf, the maverick of the radio dial. I don't answer to anyone for what happens on this show because I own it. Therefore, you get the truth, plain and simple. Bringing you this truth is the powerful radio station, WNOX, right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We are blasting 100,000 watts into the ether, enabling you to hear my voice live over the airwaves in parts of 5 of these great southeastern states and 2 time zones, those being the eastern and central time zones. We aren't limited to just that coverage area, even though it is a big one. Our coverage area extends around the world via the internet. You can tune us in there at www.wnoxfm.com. There you can watch the goings-on. And there are a lot of them right here in the studio, thanks to the exclusive WNOX webcam. If you're watching that webcam and wondering who that person is standing next to me to my left, it's Tori, our show producer. Did you have fun out in the snow, Tori?
No.
Yeah, neither did I.
No. Actually, no. No. My wife got stuck in the ditch on the way home from her work.
I noticed that, and someone relieved you of having to pull the car out of the ditch.
Yeah, TDOT.
Yes, the state of Tennessee.
Well, I'll try to make it quick. On Chapman Highway coming up right before you get to Seymour there, she just kind of slid off, back tire in the ditch, rest of the car into the slow lane, so we go down there and pick her up. Try to get AAA down there. AAA said they'll get down there as soon as they can. Blah, blah,
about 4
blah,
hours.
blah, blah. Well, no, they never did come.
Oh.
But we just couldn't wait no more. Had to get her home before the sun went down, so we got her home, leaving the car there because we couldn't get it out. Well, go back and pick it up next day. It's gone. And after an hour and a half to 2 hours of trying to figure out who towed it, finally went up to Seymour Fire Department, which helped quite a bit, and told us to try I'm not going to say their name, try a tow company out and toward Halls from Seymour.
Oh, good.
So they towed it from Seymour to Halls. And it was $200 cash. No check, no debit. $200 cash to get it out.
And you had to go all the way out there.
I had to go all the way out there. So I'm not going to say the name of that company because they're just doing what they have to do. And everybody did just what they have to do, and I understand that. But TDOT...
I don't know. If you're in the ditch, you're kind of out of the roadway, I'd think.
Yeah, well, they said that the TDOT came through and just completely buried it anyway with the snow scrapers.
Yeah.
So nobody really to be mad at. Everybody did what they were supposed to have done. We're just out $200. And
nice. So if you want to send money to Tori, the Tori Snow Fund, just send it care of WNOX, right?
Nobody was hurt. Car was undamaged. So, I mean, it could have been worse.
Well, I was out electricity from Thursday afternoon until Saturday at about noon. So I'll tell you, waking up cold, not fun at all. Having done it for 2 days, I just cannot in good conscience recommend that for anyone.
Oh, come on.
But
smell real good after about the 3rd day.
Oh, yeah. Well, I took cold showers.
Oh,
and
you're more of a man than I am.
That'll wake you up.
I believe I just stink.
Well, it gives you an appreciation for having electricity.
And we kept ours on in Seymour where I was at, so some parts of Seymour lost it. But yeah, it got nasty. 10 minutes, it was nasty. I mean, there wasn't nothing you could do about it.
I was out here in West Knoxville and was trying to get back over to East, and it took me about an hour and a half to get from right over here, right next to the station, all the way down.
Well, we've had our snow, guys.
That's
it's been pretty.
No I hope you enjoyed it. We don't need any more.
I'm ready for 70 degrees.
If you want snow, go north.
Yes. Which I have to say, and I'll let you go. Everybody needs a good local neighborhood Yankee. Because this guy from our neighbor from Indiana just jumped right in the old four-wheel truck, and we're passing cars in the fast lane and passing them on the shoulder, and everybody's cussing us and flipping us off, but...
Yeah, that's nothing.
Well, I know how to drive. You know how all the Yankees are. Y'all don't know how to drive in this. We know how to drive in that. Well, he did, so everybody needs a good Yankee living by him.
People in Knoxville, and I've lived here all my life, people in Knoxville don't know how to drive in the sunshine.
No.
So,
no, especially
if you throw some precipitation in there, especially frozen, it just gets worse.
Yeah, I drove for DHL and FedEx for 6 years. I know.
Oh, and real quick, of course, they've been talking about all this week. The Monte Tio, is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to give him a quick shout out here. I had to play this. I told Tori I was going to play this here.
Well, what about your girl in Canada?
That's from Weird Science. You won't want to hear that again. I think that's hilarious.
Well, what about your girl in Canada?
Oh gosh!
A nice greasy pork sandwich served in a dirty ashtray.
Served in a dirty ashtray. Now we know how old Tori is.
42 this Saturday, actually.
Well, you're not supposed to tell.
Oh, I don't care. I'd rather be 42 than not.
Well, what else would you be?
Dead. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Well, we're rolling up on the first break here.
We've won that segment.
Yeah, just toss all those notes in the trash. We'll use them next week. So, this is the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll be back. Yeah, we'll work some politics into all this. That's what you tuned in for. This is Patrick Riggins. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. Some Adelita's Way there to get us started. This the second segment of the most reasoned and logical argument for libertarian government that you're going to find on the radio today. Real quick, I'd like to just comment on a story that ran here locally about how effective the traffic cameras have been and how they are putting some up and taking some down. That's here in Knoxville. Whether you're for these cameras or against them, what I want you to think about, is this something the government should be doing? Should the government be essentially spying on the public with cameras? Is that not an unwarranted government intrusion into daily life? If you don't see anything wrong with this, then would you have a problem with the government putting a camera up on a pole to watch your house or watch your yard? How about a camera mounted on your car along with GPS tracking to see where you're going? They can watch you drive all around town on a video camera. Why not just incorporate a GPS into every car with the government having access to where you are at all times?
That's your bathroom.
Yes. After all, as I said, they're already watching you on camera. So what's the big deal about tracking you with GPS? The point is, where is the line? How far is too far? It used to be that putting up cameras and watching what people were doing, that was going too far. Now it isn't considered out of the ordinary. Do you see how the line has moved towards tyranny, towards more governmental intrusion? What makes you think that line won't continue to move in that direction? Once we all get used to seeing the line drawn in one place, the government moves it a bit further. Not far enough to create a huge outcry, just far enough to be making progress. The ones who do complain are made fun of and said to be paranoid, or a tinfoil hat wearing type of person, someone who says the sky is falling. After a few years of societal pressure, most people just shut up and accept what the government is doing because they're tired of being ostracized by their friends and the media and the government. It seems as if everyone is against them, so they drop their complaints. Then the government moves the line a little further, and people who are normally quiet now speak up, and the processes begin again until they decide also to just be quiet and let the government do what it is doing. Then the line, of course, is moved again. until we have the TSA filling up people in the airports, the bus stations, the train stations, heck, even sporting events.
The guy with the rubber glove was surprisingly gentle.
Yeah. We have cameras up and monitoring what you're doing, when you're doing it, and with whom. And speaking of the TSA, I have a story right here on my desk. Yes, wake you up while you're listening here. The TSA is doing away with body scanners. The Transportation Security Administration is ending a contract with Rapid Scan Systems, which manufactures the scanners that produce a naked image of travelers who pass through them. Now, privacy rights activists have complained that these scanners constitute a virtual strip search. Now, the TSA plans to continue using a scanner that is considered less invasive and which makes a generic image that has been likened to a cartoon, yet highlights potential foreign objects on the traveler's body. So they're still going to scan you, you know.
I just see images of Bugs Bunny or the coyote.
That's
going
exactly it. And so they're still doing it, but they're still going to violate your rights. And like I said, they're just going to use Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse to do it.
You'll look like Minnie Mouse.
Yeah, just standing there. Isn't that great? We're still going to violate your rights, but this time it'll be fun. It's like when you were a kid. You went to the dentist with all those cartoon books in his office, and he and his assistants all had the little whimsical characters on their aprons. They had little cartoons painted on the walls. You know, I never fell for any of that. I always realized that no matter what was on the wall, no matter what cartoon character the dentist had on his jacket, he was still the dentist. If I had a cavity, he was still going to drill it out. There wasn't a cartoon character in the world that made a hill of beans difference to me about it. Bugs isn't sitting in the chair instead of me. Goofy isn't getting a cavity filled. It was me. Either way you argued it, it was still me in the chair. In that same way, it is still a strip search at the airport. No matter what you want to call it, no matter how many little cartoon-like people highlighting possible foreign objects on a traveler's body you use. I mean, it's like, hey, as Goofy says, you've got a gun in your pocket. Or maybe you're just excited about going to Florida. Yeah. Either way, you're going to have to go to Mickey's Fun Room to talk to one of our friendly TSA agents. Yep, the one with the crazy and fun-colored rubber glove.
The guy with the rubber glove was surprisingly gentle.
Yes. But getting back to the story, the TSA says the X-ray scanners will be gone by June because RapidScan was not able to come up with a software fix to make these scanners comply with a congressional mandate that these scanners provide or better protect passenger privacy. Hey, here's an idea. How about not using them at all? That would better protect passenger privacy, wouldn't it? Or maybe leave it up to the airlines themselves. They'd do a better job because they'd be held accountable by their customers, not someone they can pay off like government. You know, a little campaign donation here, a little weekend trip for Mr. and Mrs. Congressman, just to smooth things over in case of a problem. Now, opponents of the full-body scanners argue that strip searches without probable cause violate basic human rights. Governments do not have the right to make strip searches routine and mandatory, regardless of whether the strip search is done by physically removing clothes or by using technological means to remove the clothes. Now, the TSA has 174 rapid scanners in operation. Some 76 others were removed from airports, including New York's LaGuardia and JFK, Chicago's O'Hare, Los Angeles, Boston, Charlotte, and Orlando. They were removed last year. So we had the scanners. Then we got rid of some of them. Now we're getting rid of the rest of them. And no one has tried to hijack a plane? Sounds, to me anyway, like we didn't need them in the first place. But then again, RapidScan wouldn't have got that nice government contract, and congressional representatives wouldn't be getting those nice campaign donations from that company. Yes. It's all fun, isn't it? So don't worry about getting your privacy violated or rights violated. It's just fun.
And you look like a cartoon.
And you'll look like a... We're just using friendly cartoons. That's why Tori's the best over here. But getting back to the whole argument about traffic cameras and government cameras in general, we have the NSA and the FBI creating a program to pull pictures and names off the internet to create an all-inclusive facial recognition database to identify individuals no matter where they show up. All done with, quote, public pictures, publicly available information. So what's the harm, people say? That is, until they're on the receiving end of all this surveillance. But then it will be too late. All the people complaining about this, warning fellow citizens of the abuse of the power of the government, all those people will have been made such a mockery, there is no way they're going to say anything more about it. Well, except for people like me and radio shows like this one. Who knows, though, at some point in the future, what I'm saying on this show might be labeled treasonous or seditious. It's been in the past. If you Google the Alien and Sedition Acts that Congress passed back in 1798, you'll see it's the same thing, and government upheld it as constitutional. Everyone thought those were a good idea until they became one of the people prosecuted under them. And most people weren't, though, so what did they care? What did they care if something was unconstitutional? It didn't affect them. It's the same reasoning as we have today with the President and Congress daily doing things which are unconstitutional. What happens when you allow people to get away with things too many times? You get President Obama making proclamations and threatening to try and take away your rights under the Constitution via executive order. Does that make you angry? Well, what did you do about it? Complain to your family, your friends? If you did that, then you really did nothing, unless someone in your family or friends sits in Congress. So what are you waiting for? Are you waiting till it's too late? You need to call your representatives this week and start complaining about all this and demanding they put a stop to it. And have your friends and family call as well. The more calls, the better. It lets those in Congress know we're watching them. And don't take their BS excuses at how they're only one person and they cannot vote against something, otherwise they won't be able to get something passed that benefits you and your district. Most likely what they're wanting votes for is unconstitutional too. So demand they just stop voting for this stuff, or you and your friends are going to work your butts off to kick them out of office. And more importantly, then do it. Don't make a false threat. Get someone to run for their seat and get them elected. You can do it if you put your mind to it. There's so few people voting nowadays that it really doesn't take much to get someone into office. It just takes a little work, and if you have a bunch of people, not much work then. In case you've forgotten or you're a new listener to this radio show, the people were here first. Then we created the states. Then we created the federal government. That is how power is to be distributed. The creators, the citizens, have all the power. Next, the states are granted some powers by the citizens, and then the federal government is granted some power by the states and ultimately the citizens. But now we have everything backwards. The federal government seems to think it's in charge of everything, and the states and the people are just along for the ride. Now, fortunately, a lot of local leaders, including local sheriffs, are telling the federal government to butt out their jurisdictions, and even going so far as to threaten to arrest federal officers sent to enforce federal law that is contradictory to local law. And rightly so. If people decide something in a state and it doesn't restrict the rights of anyone, but the federal government doesn't like it, then tough for the federal government. It is the last government in line. Well, it is in front of foreign governments, but it's the last in line here in the United States. All right, we're up on the mid-hour break here on the Patrick Riggins Show. Show flying by quickly, but it always does. But that's good. It tells you you're learning a lot and you're enjoying the show. Tori's sitting over there quietly. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about the Constitution and gun control. You haven't heard about that at all, have you? This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. Playing a little Grover Washington Jr. there.
The sounds of the quiet storm.
Yes. I've not heard this song in forever. Have you, Tor?
No.
I remember when growing up I'd hear it.
What movie was this off of in the 80s? The Mannequin or something like that, I think.
You got me. You could Google it real quick.
No, we got a show to do. Everybody just hold on. We're just going to Google it.
Yeah, well, according to that first segment, we don't have a show we're trying to do.
I'll shut up now.
I didn't say that. Oh, the sax solo.
You rant about something.
Oh, I was listening to the sax solo. Speak, Patrick. Sit up. There you go. Good boy. All right. Getting into the segment here. This segment, I've talked a few times about this, but I want to hit on it again real quickly. I want to talk with you about how important the Constitution really is and how you need to read it. You need to know what is in it and what it allows the federal government to do. This isn't taught in our public schools anymore, mainly because most of the teachers and administrators don't believe we should be abiding by it. So they propagandize the students by downplaying its importance and significance to our country. The reason we have a Constitution is because our founders knew you couldn't trust people to mind their own business. And government is made up of people. Mostly people who think they know better than you how to run your life. We don't base our government on a moral code per se, such as like a religious code. We base it on the fact that all humans are born with natural rights. Rights that our founders saw as God-given. Now, whether you believe in God or not, they still saw all humans as possessing natural rights. Now, they screwed up the slavery situation, but unfortunately, those were the times in which they lived. That doesn't excuse their behavior. It merely points out that even the founders of our country were human. Now, moral codes and religious practices, they can change over the years. Just look how what used to be not acceptable in polite society now is. Now we have progressives, people who think they know how you should act, trying to tell us the Constitution doesn't mean what it says, that a right to keep a gun is not in the Constitution. What all these people miss is that if it isn't in the Constitution, the government has no business sticking its nose into it. The Constitution is a set of restrictions. It only lists what the government can do. If it isn't spelled out in that document, then the federal government cannot do it. Nowhere does it say the government can restrict guns or anything having to do with them. When the colonies voted to ratify the Constitution, what they were doing was allowing the government, the federal government, out of its cage on parole, so to speak. The Constitution is the set of restrictions by which the government must obey. Otherwise, it needs to be put back into jail until it can agree to abide by the rules. And by putting it back into jail, I mean doing away with it. When the federal government proves it can't be trusted, or when it proves it can be trusted, then we'll think about letting it back out. Until then, the states can get along just fine. We'll take care of things locally and put the federal government back into place when it agrees not to stick its nose into everything the citizens are doing. Now, is this a radical solution? Well, of course. But is it unwarranted? Increasingly, I think a lot of people are starting to not think so. It's interesting, though. Some people can be swayed from one side to the other. Others back their side no matter what, without even testing it to see if it makes sense. For example, I'm sure you have noticed this as well. People pass things around the internet, and if it agrees with their agenda, they'll believe it. We have all this stuff floating around talking about guns, gun control, taxes, political beliefs, and half of it isn't true. But if it agrees with what you think, you will blindly accept it and forward it on. This is the problem in America today. People are too eager to believe and back what a politician says without doing any research on whether it is really right or not, or whether the government has that power. As long as it agrees with their philosophy, then people don't care whether it is true or not. I touched on this a few weeks ago on this very show when talking about President Obama, how he has continued 99% of the policies of the Bush administration, policies that Democrats and liberals complained about but are now silent because it is their guy doing it, their guy murdering people in foreign lands without trials or even appeals, their guy signing legislation that is blatantly unconstitutional. Two recent examples, which I mentioned on the show last week, the NDAA and the FISA Act. When Bush signed these types of legislation, liberals were complaining how he was circumventing the Constitution, how he was violating people's rights. Now, nothing. Not a word. Nothing from the media, nothing from the liberals, because it's their guy doing it. Then it's okay to violate law, violate human rights. And I'm not just jumping on the Democrats for this hypocrisy. The Republicans are just as guilty. Listen to the conservative commentators and pundits on the radio and television. Now that Obama is in office, all of this constitutional or unconstitutional legislation is destroying the country. But when Bush was doing the same thing, you heard nothing. You could hear the crickets chirping. It was all about fighting terrorism, fighting Al-Qaeda. Today you can listen to those same conservatives, and with Obama doing the same thing, signing the same legislation, now the country can't survive it. The conservatives are as much to blame as the liberals. That's why this show is different. It is consistently about freedom and liberty for the individual. I don't care whether someone is liberal or conservative. I don't care if they're one of the confused moderates. I don't care. All humans, or as humans, we are born with our natural rights, and those need to be respected. These conservative commentators are all now trying to jump on the bandwagon. Oh, yeah, I've been against all this government intrusion the whole time. All this wasteful government spending. Really? Where were you when it was going on during Bush's term? I'll tell you where. You were right at the front of the procession proclaiming you knew what was best for everyone, as long as the government is pushing your conservative agenda. You are all for that. But when it starts pushing a liberal agenda, well, no, that's intrusive and unconstitutional. Well, forget that. I want government harassing the American citizens in the correct conservative way. Keep that in mind as you listen to these so-called limited government types who say they want limited government. That really means what they want is government pushing conservative intrusiveness instead of liberal intrusiveness. This is why you have voters voting for things they don't have a clue about. All they know is that they should do it because their person is for it. Or they've been told by others that this is how they should vote. Nothing more. People are constantly looking for this external validation to what they believe, and you shouldn't be doing that. Think about your principles and stand firm on them. The Constitution should be the bedrock of those principles. We supposedly live in a constitutional republic, so we shouldn't be doing anything outside of what is allowed in that document, that set of rules by which the government must play. That's why I don't have guests on this show. People say I should have guests come on, talk about this or that issue. Why? Is it allowed in the Constitution? No. Then we shouldn't be doing it. I don't need external validation. I don't need someone telling me that. I can read it for myself. If someone is trying to contort the Constitution to allow something, then that is a good clue that it doesn't, and they're just trying to work around it. I don't need someone else coming in here saying the same thing I'm saying. What good would that be? I don't need someone to tell me I'm right, or tell me if they're saying the same thing I'm saying, then who cares? You can just hear me say it. If you want strong, logical, reasoned analysis of issues from a libertarian, and more to the point, an American point of view, then tune me in and listen to this show, because you don't usually get this type of consistent analysis of the issues anywhere else. Now, our Constitution has a way to adjust to modern times. It's called the amendment process. If the government wants to do something other than what the Constitution allows, then it should try and amend it. not find ways to end run around it or Congress. For example, these executive orders from the president. If they carry the force of law, then they're unconstitutional. The president cannot make law. That is the job of Congress. Nowhere in the Constitution is the granting of power to the president to make executive orders of any kind. It's nowhere in there. And if it isn't in there, then he doesn't have that power. Don't listen to all these experts tell you, well, if you read and interpret the Constitution this or that way, then you see it. As I said, if you're having to contort and pull meanings and read stuff into this document that's not spelled out, then you're being deceitful. If it's so necessary for the president to have this power to issue executive orders, if it's such a wonderful and great idea, then let's amend the Constitution to allow it, specifically allow it, so there is no question. Why don't they do that? Because they know the people of this country would never grant one person that much authority. The authority to issue decrees and dictates, much like the king did, who we fought against to gain our independence. So if they cannot get the amendment passed, then they try then to end-run the Constitution and the American people, and do it anyway. And Congress doesn't want to stop the president because they want that power if their party gets into the presidency. That's why I say you're getting screwed by both parties. Both of them are power hungry and lust after these inherent benefits of federal office. All right, we're up on the last break of the Patrick Riggins Show. We've covered a lot, and we've got a little bit more to go. When we come back, we'll be talking about, how you can get in trouble having a Hello Kitty toy gun at school. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the funky Patrick Riggins Show. That's Zapp and Rogers' song, More Bounce to the Ounce. Is that like more bound to the pound, you think, Tori? Or?
Could somebody please pass the funk?
You're going to be playing Parliament Funkadelic on here.
Actually, I got some up here. I know that don't surprise you any.
No, it does not. I kind of listen to all that, everything. There's only one or two genres that I just absolutely won't listen to. And I won't mention them because otherwise we'll get people calling going, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway.
We got both kinds here, country and western.
Country and western. Yeah. We're the band. I know we're that. I watch the Blues Brothers. We're the good old boys. I know my movies.
That's good.
This last segment, I wanted to read you this story from, it was on foxnews.com. It is pretty much everywhere. And the story is about a 5-year-old Pennsylvania girl who was suspended from school for threatening to shoot another girl with a Hello Kitty toy bubble gun. I lay this overreaction directly at the feet of President Obama and the media, both of whom have been hyping all this gun hysteria for the sole purpose of trying to circumvent the Constitution. Just as I mentioned in the previous segment of the show, a 5-year-old Pennsylvania girl who told another girl she was going to shoot her with a pink Hello Kitty toy gun that blows soapy bubbles has been suspended from kindergarten. Her family has hired an attorney to fight the punishment, which initially was 10 days for issuing a terroristic threat.
Wow.
That now is a terroristic threat.
Oh, I would be so mad as a parent, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, exactly. Her punishment, though, was reduced to 2 days after her mother met with school officials and had the incident dropped to threatening to harm another student. So I guess that's a lesser included offense of terroristic threat.
Bubbles have been known to kill people.
Yes, and they can get in your eye and sting. Now, really, have we come to this? Has the gun hysteria reached this point? One of the main problems is we have government involved in the education of children. Heck, if they can't deliver the mail efficiently, what makes us think we should trust it with the education of our kids? Mount Carmel area school district officials, again, it's in Pennsylvania, said the girl made the threat on January 10th as she waited for a school bus with friends. A school official overheard the remark and searched the girl's backpack, but did not find the Hello Kitty gun. The next day, the girls were interrogated by school officials, and by the time the girl was done speaking to administrators about the incident, she was crying. A teacher also called out the girl in front of her class and told her the police may get involved. The girl was also questioned without the benefit of having her parents present.
You talk about a parent would be down there chewing some hind ends out.
Yes. Again, this is a 5-year-old girl. Now, every school official involved with this should be fired. These are dangerous times in which we find ourselves, my friend. 5-year-old girls wielding Hello Kitty soap bubble squirt guns. And the teachers who have to face them down. That would make a good Cops episode, wouldn't it? There's some theme music. And you can just see it. Yep, there I was. I heard young 5-year-old terrorist Jenny make the threat about shooting someone with a Hello Kitty soap bubble gun, and I knew I had to act immediately. I threw her to the ground and put my size 10 school administrator boot heel squarely in the back of little Jenny Al-Qaeda's neck to ensure she wasn't going to try anything. I also grabbed her backpack because I knew that was the place she had probably been told to hide the weapon during her extensive 5-year kindergarten terrorist training in Afghanistan.
No, because the backpacks have to be mesh and see-through now.
Oh. So there really was no reason to search it. Of course, he would continue. When I couldn't find the weapon, I knew I had to get her to my office for extensive and intense interrogation. Oh, yeah. She had been trained well. She cried. She asked for her mommy, but I wasn't buying it. This child was probably 2 seconds away from blowing bubbles all over the entire school. It's ridiculous. The only word I can use to describe the whole situation. As I said, all the school people involved should be just immediately fired. Better yet, let's just get the government out schooling altogether. That would go a long way towards better education for our kids. This is what happens, though, when you hype things up in the media like this. With the government's and, heck, even the president's full participation. You remember him, don't you? President Obama. The one standing between us and the gun-crazed people wanting to kill us all. He's so courageous, he hides behind children when he tries to take away your rights. He doesn't have the guts to try and amend the Constitution, to tell you directly that what he wants to do, which in reality is the total disarmament of the American people. And he can't do it all at once, of course. He hides behind these children in the hopes that you'll take this insult without complaint. And you can see from this story here, Tori's just not real happy with that. 5-year-old
seriously,
abuse.
dude. I got 2 teenage daughters. If they did that to my daughter, oh man.
Let alone a 5-year-old.
I'd be over squalling. I promise you that.
I would probably be punching someone. I don't have kids, but this makes me mad just to read it.
Yeah.
And this is what we're coming to in this nation.
Zero tolerance. You can't even talk about it.
Can't even
think about it.
Can't make a gun with your hand because that's, I guess, too dangerous. Your gun's going to go off.
You know, and Obama's got the little kids, well, we're scared of guns. Well, if they had their parents that would teach them about guns, maybe they wouldn't be scared of what they don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm scared of Obama. Can we get rid of him? I'm scared of Congress.
3 more years.
Can we get rid of Congress?
4 more years.
I'm scared of a tyrannical government. Let's do something about that. All right. We're up on the end of the show here. If you want more information about us, you can go to facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. That's RIGGINS, Patrick Riggins Show altogether. And be sure and hit that like button on there, too, if you're on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter at @Patrick Riggins. And if you miss any of the shows and want to hear this one again, you can go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show. That's youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show. Join me next Sunday afternoon when once again we'll talk about freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution, barring soapy Hello Kitty soapy bubble guns.
There were bubbles everywhere. The humanity.
It was awful.
The humanity.
This is Patrick Riggins. We'll see you next Sunday afternoon at 2. Have a great week.
Please make it stop. Make it stop.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on The Patrick Riggins Show. Every Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m. Be there.